When I think about the highest revenue per subscriber in an audience, Nick Huber is at the absolute top of the list.
I made a tweet that I have an opportunity to buy a company that I needed to raise $20 million.
As we're hanging out, you've got DMs coming back.
We're 2 weeks into that and I've got over half the money committed. I think so many creators have this mindset that money is evil. I don't want to be an entrepreneur. Why do I need this money? I'll challenge everybody who ever says that.
Let's say that you're great at content creation and you don't have some of the business skills.
Creators are notoriously horrific at selling. They think that they can make 100 tweets, and if one of them is asking somebody for money, it's gonna tarnish their brand. I tweet 40 times a week. 7 of those tweets are direct sales tweets.
Give me an example of one of those tweets.
You tell me if you think that tweet worked. We might be able to charge $400,000. Wake up. Ask for money.
Nick, good to hang out with you.
Thanks for having me, man.
Matt has hosted us here, beautiful Cabo, back again. The whole crew here is amazing at building audiences, but you're going through something that is pretty fun to share. Like when we talked about the power of an audience, you fired off a tweet the other day about buying a business. And as we're hanging out, you've got DMs coming back for the money you're raising for that. Why don't you give the quick story there?
Yeah, I guess to start at the end here of how big it can get and how fun it can get, I made a tweet 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
That I have an opportunity to buy a company for a majority ownership stake, a controlling interest in the company at a $52 million valuation, and that I needed to raise $20 million. And we're 2 weeks into that, and I've got over half the money committed, and I'm sure that the people that I'm in contact with and taking meetings with now will finish this out, and I'll take controlling interest in a $50 million company.
Based on like your audience.
The opportunity came to me. The opportunity came to me through my audience. The operating team that I put in place to run the company once I close came to me through my audience, and the money came to me through my audience.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 things you need to do business at a high level.
Yeah, and you have this whole network of businesses that we'll get into, all 100% driven by the audience.
My audience accelerated my career 20 years within the first year of building it.
Yeah.
And then it took it to places I never would have been able to get in my wildest dreams.
You're probably at 20 years ahead now. Or more, would you say?
I don't think I would have been able to accomplish this in a 50-year career.
Without an audience.
Yes.
Okay, so since we're starting at the end deliberately, because this is the power of an audience, and then we'll go back a little bit. Give me the breakdown on a handful of the businesses.
Yep.
And
so there's I own 9 businesses now, not counting my actual personal brand. A real estate engineering firm that's less than 2 years old, $400,000 a month of revenue. Enterprise value is a tricky thing, but I wouldn't sell any interest in that company at a $10 million valuation.
Right.
I'm a big part of a company called Support Shepherd that hires and recruits international employees. That's a really great, thriving business. 100 plus employees, over 7 figures a month of revenue. I'm a founding partner in a web development agency, an SEO agency with 150K plus of MRR in less than a year, a pay-per-click marketing company called AdRhino, a US-based recruiting company called RecruitJet, a property insurance company called Titan Risk, a business brokerage called Nick Huber, a sales and executive coaching business called Huber Method, and life's coming at me fast.
It's all from the audience.
I actually added up all the employees. We're 44 million a year of revenue if you take this month's numbers.
Yep.
282 employees. It's big. This is getting really big.
Yeah, and it's the rate that it's compounding. Like we're sharing numbers and details in our group text threads and all of that, and the rate that it's compounding is pretty insane.
I'd say through my audience, through my newsletter, and through Twitter, I'm adding $3 to $5 million a month of enterprise value across my portfolio.
Yeah, that's pretty insane. So, okay, now let's go back before you started the audience.
Yeah.
Right, and you're thinking about this might be something that would help accelerate your career in some way,
No,
help you raise money. What drove it?
I like attention, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I've always been a guy who's goofs off, loud. I'm having fun when everybody else is having fun. And so I decided to start a podcast about small business. And
the podcast was the first thing?
The podcast was the very first thing. It was called The Sweaty Startup. I made 10 episodes and 0 people listened. I tried to get my friends to listen and realized they didn't give a shit about entrepreneurship. So
yeah.
I had 0 way to get people to listen to this. I knew nobody who could help me. I had no audience. So I went on Reddit, founded by the Hoffman guy, and it was a 8-month warfare of me writing copy, trying to get people in the entrepreneurship subreddit to read what I had to say and then click the link at the bottom of my post to go and listen to my podcast. I got better at writing copy. I had a little knack for it. I practiced nonstop for a year. I was super into it. When a guy named Moses Kagan found me on there, he became a friend of mine and said, Nick, you got to get on Twitter. That's where people are doing deals.
Right.
you're in the real estate business, you got to get on Twitter. And I ignored him. 3 months went by. I'm like, no way. Twitter's where people go to argue about Donald Trump. Like,
usually
I'm not
when we
going
get
there.
that great advice, we ignore it for a long time. I had that when someone like pulled me aside. Was like, you have to stop treating ConvertKit as a side project and double down. And it's one of those things where you want to say like, yeah, I heard great advice and I acted on it right away. And it's like, no, 3 to 6 months later.
I'm a super confident guy, and I look back at myself when I was 21 years old making business decisions. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 20.
Yeah.
And I cringe now thinking about how cocky I was and what level I was actually playing at, right? Now I'm getting wiser to know that there are so many levels to this game.
Right.
I'm leveling up now, but then there's levels of these guys who own these beachfront properties for $40 million. There's levels all the way up to the Elon Musks of the world, and I'm middle of the pack guy.
Right.
So I'm getting way better at changing my mind on things, but I still have the confidence and the swag and the ego and the things that it takes to do crazy things that take risk. So I got on Twitter finally he called me the second time and said, Nick, you're wasting it on Reddit. Get on Twitter. I went on Twitter and did a full thread about one of my self-storage facilities. I broke down the profit, the loss, how I found the deal, how we made it more valuable, and how we made like $1 million. And nobody had ever posted a profit and loss statement on Twitter before.
Right.
I just shared wildly open. And Moses retweeted me. He had 2,000 followers and I had 3. He retweeted my third post and gave me another 300 followers. And then I had a couple threads really pop off over the years and got me to where I'm at today with 340,000 followers on Twitter and a newsletter with 220,000 subscribers, 2 podcasts, the Nick Huber Show. It's what he started up, a YouTube channel. So it's just starting to compound and really get rolling.
Yeah. So there's a lot of skills that go into being a creator. I think I talk a lot about like, oh, everyone should be doing this in some way. But there's 2 ingredients that you had that I think most people don't have. One is a lot of real world business experience to talk about, right?
Yeah, I have something to say on that.
Yeah, like let's dive into that because a lot of people come in and
everybody wants to build an audience. Like everybody says, oh, I want to build an audience. The truth is that everybody on social media is super selfish. They're scrolling social media. What can I extract from this person? The people that I want following me, the business owners, the entrepreneurs, the people who are very ambitious and do big things in the entrepreneurship world, they're selfish on social media. They're not trying to get a laugh. They're trying to learn something. Mm-hmm. And so I realized that I had 3 seconds less. I had a half a second of somebody scrolling past my post where they're thinking, what can I get from Nick? So I had to give them that. I had to show them, hey, this guy's actually doing something I can learn from. I have something to gain. So boom, they're selfish. I'm selfish because I want their attention. I have to give them what they want. And in order to do that, I had to be actually doing something. Everybody, I want a following like Nick's. I want to build a bunch of followers. Nobody wants to follow you if you're not willing to actually do something. You look at the most followed people in the world. It's LeBron James, Garth Brooks, it's Taylor Swift, it's the presidents. It's people who are spectacular. It's people who have done something incredible. They have built a skill set that's unbelievable, and therefore people follow them to learn something or because they've done it. If you try building an audience before you have done anything, it's a fool's errand, in my opinion, especially in the entrepreneurship space.
Yeah, there are definitely people who have done it, but you don't have the credibility. I think the best way to be interesting on the internet is to be interesting off the internet first.
Yep.
And then go from there. Because the other thing that stood out, like you could have come in and said, hey, I'm trying to do my first self-storage deal. Here's everything that I've learned. And you can take a quest or a journey approach to building an audience where you're saying, I'm here, I'm trying to go there, follow the journey.
Yep.
And that will work. And you'll get a lot of smart people helping you out along the way. But I think the reason that your stuff on Twitter really popped is because you're saying, this is what I've done.
Yep.
And being willing to be transparent.
Yeah, I started a student storage company in college. I was an Ivy Leaguer. All my buddies went and got jobs for $100,000 a year in New York City. I moved boxes. I ate shit for 5 years. I learned how to run a really hard company. I hired people. I fired people. We did almost $3 million of revenue in our peak. I was in the trenches building a business. I was actually there. I was doing it. We had 300 part-time employees at our peak. We sold that company for 7 figures. And then I built a self-storage facility from the ground up for $2.5 million. It went really well. I bought another one with my own money at auction. At public auction, I wired $150,000 that I barely had to buy the second property. I had done some uncomfortable things from an entrepreneurship perspective. So therefore, the thing about advice on the internet is that everybody filters it based on the quality of the source. Mm-hmm. If you sit down here and get business advice from average Joe on the street, you're going to filter that. And if you sit down here and get business advice from Warren Buffett, you're going to hang on it a little harder.
Yeah.
Everybody filters everything based on the quality of the source, whether you like it or not. So I guess a side piece of advice here is, so tell people what you've done. There's so many people on Twitter and everywhere else that in their bio, they put some kind of obscure bullshit because they're afraid to brag on themselves.
Right.
And that sets them back in a major way because they want their ideas to stand alone. And the truth is, ideas don't stand alone.
Yeah.
Ideas are judged by everybody based on the quality of the source.
Because you post that thread and say, like, some of them have a lot of details in it, so it might tell the whole story, but others might be more general business advice.
Yep.
Then I'm immediately going to click through to the bio.
And my bio used to say, entrepreneur, bringer together of people, all the stuff that people put.
Yeah.
And people would see that and be like, this guy's not worth following. As
Right.
soon as I changed it to sold a business for 7 figures, built a real estate private equity company with 45 employees. We own 63 properties, 1.9 million square feet of self-storage. We've raised $40 million. We bought $100 million worth of property. The conversion rate from a good
Right.
thread, I would get 3,000 followers instead of 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
That was massive for me. And it was uncomfortable to put a very arguably egotistical post.
To be bragging about
You-
that. But
so you
that's
have to
what
be-
you have to do.
You have to be comfortable bragging on yourself.
Yeah, because people are saying, should I pay attention to you? And you're like, no, I talk about and it's like, all right, I won't.
Yeah.
And instead of you say, here's exactly why you should pay attention to me, then someone will go, oh, I don't care about real estate, self-storage, whatever, I'll move right along. And for the right people, they'll hone in exactly.
Social media is an interesting game. When you're trying to build relationships in a real person, I would never go to a dinner with my wife and tell everybody what I've done.
Yeah.
That's absurdity. But when you're on the internet and you're trying to get the attention of thousands of people, there's no other way. It's cringeworthy, it's uncomfortable. In person, I like to be very relatable, very humble. I don't brag on myself when many of my friends in Athens don't have any idea what I do.
Yeah.
They don't know because they've never asked a question about me, and I'm sure as hell not going to tell them what I do. That's who I am.
Yeah.
But on the internet, you have to get over that.
Right.
So if there's one takeaway from this, that's it.
Yeah. So the other skill that you really developed early on is the ability to write and create content consistently.
Yeah.
And, Reddit, Twitter, any of these places are a great place to do that. Someone that I followed early on in the SaaS world is Jason Lemkin.
Yep.
And he got his entire start. First, he had a ton of credibility. He built, sold
Yeah.
a company to
Had the
Adobe.
resume. He had the resume.
He had all of that. But then to create content, he responded to threads on Quora and answered questions over and over again,
Yeah.
and just became insanely useful. And then it teed up so much content because people would be like, oh, you want to know about that? Oh, I know a lot. I didn't realize that was interesting, but sure, I can answer that in detail. And then that turns into a post or more. But it builds those reps of getting good at writing, because other times people show up and they're saying, okay, I've done interesting things off the internet. I have this whole resume.
But I'm going to
Yeah.
pay a ghostwriter to build my Twitter account.
Yeah, and the soul of it is not there.
It doesn't ever work. I've never
Yeah.
seen that work.
What's the difference between you or I writing our own content versus doing something and then saying, now let's get someone else to tell the story as me?
Somebody DMs me and says, Nick, I want to build an audience. I can click through to their profile, and in 5 minutes, I can tell if they have what it takes or not.
Yeah.
And I can tell
What do you
that
see in that?
I'm going to this is going to maybe sound hopeless for the people listening. I don't know if you can really learn it. I think it's some people get energized by writing. Some people want the attention. Some people want the eyeballs. You got to have a fair share of ego. And then you got to get energized by ideas, and they got to come to you. And I don't know why, but I am a prolific writer. I can't stop writing. I have notes in my phone for days. I have a notepad by my bed. They come to me nonstop, and I just write. I have friends who are way more impressive than me. They've done way more than I have, but they just can't do it. They sit at a computer. What idea do I want to write on? And for me, it's energy. I get energized by an idea, and I think it's interesting, and therefore I have the energy to continue to write. They put what could be an awesome idea, and there's no energy behind it. There's no motivation. They don't get excited about it, and they don't have that urge and desire. Because look, these ideas, these business concepts that I write about, they're not sexy. They're not fun. They're not, oh my God, this is a groundbreaking idea. All these ideas have been talked about before. I'm just applying them to my life and my business when I write content. So you got to be able to get excited by these things that other people it doesn't make them really click.
Yeah. I think when you and I first met, it was maybe 2021 at Cody Sanchez's conference.
Yep.
Then your business looked quite a bit different. You were heavy in self-storage. And then as you're playing this long-term game, right, building up a ton of enterprise value, doing real estate for the long term, then you had the course and coaching side of the business.
Yep.
And I remember it being really interesting because you had this insane amount of cash flow coming in from the course. And
Yeah, it was
that
damn
side.
near. I made almost $1 million in course sales in 2021.
And then you were offsetting it with all of your depreciation from your real
Yeah.
estate as a real estate professional.
Paid zero tax.
Yeah. Talk about that for a second. I think that's something that people don't fully understand. And it won't apply to a lot of people who don't want to go all in on real estate. But
real estate has a part of the tax code called bonus depreciation, where parts of these buildings have different lifespans, and you can accelerate the depreciation, and you can take losses that are not real losses. Like if I buy this house we're in for $20 million, this piece of glass is not a 30-year cycle, it's 5. So I can put a value to this and get depreciated quicker. If I buy this place for $20 million, I might get $6 million of bonus depreciation year one to offset my
Taxes on
other
something
income.
else. Yep.
If you're a real estate professional, there's a lot of nuance to this. I started a cost seg firm, so we actually do this exact thing.
Yep.
It's one of my largest businesses. But I had this real estate private equity engine that I had built. My audience gave me the cash to fund that for the first time. Real estate is incredibly capital intensive. I needed to raise money to buy storage. I'm not a country club kid. I don't have wealthy friends and family that I could go raise millions of dollars from. I literally built these relationships on Twitter to launch my real estate private equity company. No Twitter. I have maybe 10 properties right now. It's the only business I'm in, just self-storage.
Yeah.
2021, it was the only business I was in. I just sold my student storage business. I only had the real estate private equity company. We were growing fast. We were buying a lot of real estate. And I was selling courses to people about real estate.
Yeah. And, there's always this trade-off between long-term enterprise value, which is what real estate is all about, and short-term cash flow.
Yep.
You and I have a mutual friend, Sean Sweeney, in Minneapolis.
Yep.
And so he's doing these beautiful condo developments, and he's got the long-term enterprise value side figured out.
Yeah.
He's
made some investments that are going to create generational wealth over the next 20 years.
Yeah, but a lot of conversations he and I have had are about the short-term cash flow side of it.
Yeah.
Of like, okay.
Yeah, real estate's in a down cycle now. So the fees that he gets to build buildings and the fees that I get to buy storage, they're not coming in now. So my personal cash flow from my real estate portfolio went from $500,000 a year to $100,000 a year over the last 2 years because real estate's slowed way down. So if I didn't have these secondary, cash flow methods, I'd be stressed.
Yeah, and so Sean, has so many people following him for his stuff. How do I build buildings like that?
Yep.
He builds his audience on Twitter in a very similar way. And as he's been able to say like, hey, I'd love to teach a 2-day workshop on this. Let's get 25 people together.
Yep.
And a couple grand and
sells it out instantly.
Sells out immediately. And then he has this, it's like, oh, wait, I can play both sides of this. And then the cardinal rule of real estate is never run out of cash. And you can make sure that you never run out of cash because of the power of the audience.
The only way to go broke in real estate is to run out of cash at the wrong time.
Yeah. And so, that's the power of the audience is insane in that.
Yep.
So then you made a pivot, like that move from an audience, which was helping you raise a good amount of money for the private equity business.
Yep.
Courses and teaching that content is a very natural next step. People say like, I want to learn from you.
Yep.
And that's where most people stop with the audience.
Yep.
Right? Let's say we scale to 1 million in courses to 2 million a year, and then just keep playing the long-term game. What made you go into all the other businesses?
One thing changed my life. Marshall Haas, who owns Support Shepherd, reached out to me in April of 2021. And he said, Nick, I have this business. We recruit Filipino and LATAM talent to work for US companies. You have a US company. You're an influencer. Let me get you some talent. And in exchange for me getting you this talent, I want you to talk about my business on the internet. He set up an interview with 3 Filipino employees, and my mind exploded. I hired all 3 of them. Since then, I have 200 plus employees. 80% of them are in LATAM and the Philippines. Mm-hmm. Because of that moment, that changed everything for me. And I started talking about Shepherd on Twitter. Mm-hmm. And he said, I'll give you 15% of revenue from that you bring into this business as an affiliate deal.
Yep.
Talk about it. I did what I do best. I marketed, and I pissed off the entire internet by saying, you can find people that will work way better, way harder than American employees for $5 an hour. The internet lost their mind. It got millions of impressions. 3 months later, he was writing me a check for $20,000 a month. Mm-hmm. That's serious money for me.
Oh, yeah.
$20,000 a month for a tweet once every 20, 25, 30 days. A tweet once every 30 days was making me $20,000 a month. And I thought I was the shit.
Yeah.
And then I looked at what it was doing to his business. When he came to me, he was doing 30 to 50 grand a month in April 2021. 1 year later, of me, I think maybe 9 tweets later, no paid marketing, Shepherd was doing $250,000 a month. Right. It's 7x in size.
That's amazing.
And I realized, holy shit, that business is worth $8 or $10 million now.
Right.
I'm on the wrong side of this deal.
Yeah, you didn't have equity. One of our rules on this podcast is that if you want to build real wealth, you have to have equity more than just an affiliate deal.
So I went to Marshall in April of 2022, 1 year later, and I was like, Marshall, I need equity or I'm going to go start a competitor.
Right.
I was doing the same for a cost seg guy. I had a cost segregation guy who I was talking about, and his business grew from $300 to $1 million a year of revenue.
Yeah. And
he was sending me 15 or 20 grand a month. So I was making 500 grand a year, 40 grand a month, 500 grand a year as an affiliate for these 2 businesses. I went to both of them at the same time. Well, Marshall first and said, look, I need equity. And we made a deal where I bought some equity and I was a 15% shareholder in Support Shepherd.
One really quick thing. A lot of people come into that scenario and they say, I need equity, give me equity. Very adversarial. And then they say the equity should be a gift. And I think what's smart, you came in very realistic. Here's all the facts, here's how the business has grown. Here are all of my options, like all cards on the table.
Yeah.
Like I've realized the value of this.
I basically told him, we need to make a deal where I can get some very cheap equity.
Yeah.
I'm going to write you a small check and I need equity in this business, or I'm going to go start my own. No hard feelings. Your life has changed for the better because of me.
Yeah.
My life has changed for the better because of you. We will remain friends.
Yeah.
But I'm going to start this business unless you get me in on this business.
But then also coming in and saying, I will buy in.
Yeah.
I think is really important because it changes the tone of that conversation.
Yep.
Because it shows that you understand the value of what they own.
Yeah.
And like it shows a good amount of respect.
I had no leverage too.
Yeah. You did that on the Shepherd side.
April of 2022.
And then on the Costeg side, you had a very similar conversation that went a very different way.
I went in and said, hey, I want to own, this was about a year later from the Shepherd deal.
Okay.
I only owned 15% of Shepherd. I look back on that. I did not own enough of that. That was a big mistake. It's just a great business. Obviously, it's not a mistake because Marshall has helped my life in so many ways.
Yeah.
But me only owning 15% of Shepherd was a big mistake.
In hindsight, you should have pushed way more chips in.
I should have bought more of the business or went and started my own.
Right.
So I was wiser.
Yep.
And I went to the Costeg guy and said, I want to own 30% of your company and I don't want to pay you. I need equity and you're going to give it to me, because I knew how powerful it was and I knew what I was going to do. Or I said, I'm going to go start my own company. No hard feelings. Your life's better because of me. My life's better because of you. This has been an amazing partnership. Your business is accelerated. I'm willing to walk away, but you need to give me equity in this business. And he called my bluff and said no. 3 days later, I had an operating agreement signed with Mitchell Baldridge to launch a Costeg firm, because he was a Costeg specialist that I was able to launch with. It's kind of a sad deal because the guy came back to me a couple days later. He was like, Nick, we need to keep talking. And I was like, no, you told me no. And I made it very clear that I was going to go start a company, and it's in the works. It's done. And I'm actually very lucky because I own 45% of RE Costeg, and it's a $10 million business now.
Do you think that had you come in offering to buy equity, it would have gone differently?
Let me be clear. I didn't pay very much for Shepherds, so I don't think that it was almost a gift.
You don't think that?
No,
okay.
No. I realized the leverage. Marshall realized that it was a fair deal.
Yeah.
We made that deal. The Costeg guy made a big mistake.
Right.
Looking back, I think. And here I am today with a better deal. And let me put this in perspective. We're recording this in March of 2024. This conversation with the Costeg guy was June of 2022.
Yep.
Less than 2 years ago.
Yeah.
In less than 2 years, on the back of 0 paid ads, recosteg.com has 35 employees. It's done 2,000 plus Costegs, and it's doing almost $400,000 a month of revenue.
Yeah. With incredible margins.
It's a great business, but it's a very hard business. It's a very specialized business. Not everybody can start one. It's very high touch. You got to have a very good CPA as a partner. So I made some very good decisions about bringing people together. Now, the audience is amazing for customers, but the reoccurring theme here is that I'm getting in the room with spectacular, skilled people.
The operators.
The operators, the people who know how to build businesses. And fast forward to where we are today of buying a big company to pull into my portfolio. Before the deal is even done, I have a CEO picked out to run the company that I found on Twitter. I have a CRO, a chief revenue officer, that I found on Twitter. And we're building a sales team, and 3 of those candidates have come from Twitter. So I have everything. I'm playing business on easy mode. I'm not going after affiliates. I'm building enterprise value. I'm building massive cash flow. February of 2024 was my first $500,000 month of personal cash flow to me. $500,000 in 1 month.
That's wild.
All because of Twitter and what we're doing on there.
Yeah, I'm thinking about, you said playing business on easy mode. And that's something I've said a lot. Like an audience is a cheat code to everything.
Yeah.
And people can take that 2 different directions. One, you can say, I want this outcome, and I can do it with this amount of effort. But with an audience, I can do it with half the effort, a quarter of the effort, as it compounds. And you can continue to do that. Same outcome, way less effort. Or what you've done is you say, okay, no, I'm going to continue to put in this high level of effort, and I'm going to get 10 times the results because of the audience, and let that come.
To do business well, you need 3 things. The first one is you need experience on bringing people together and running companies. I had that from 10 years in the trenches of building a business. I'd made shitty partnership agreements. I'd hired the wrong people. I'd learned how to run a company. Most creators don't know how to do that. That's one thing that you have to have. The other one is you need the audience. You need the eyeballs and or a sales funnel or a bunch of capital. And then you need a network of operators who can work for the companies. I have all 3. If a creator all of a sudden decide, oh, I'm going to build a team and build a big ass company, we're glossing over all the stress and hard part
Right.
of being an entrepreneur. As you know, you're playing business on easy mode as well with your audience, and it's still very difficult to hire, to fire, to build teams, to invest. Is very difficult. So I don't know that this is for everybody. The affiliate deals can be really good for a lot of people, but I'm doing incredibly big things all because of my audience.
Yeah. Maybe we were talking to someone, and I can't think of a good example off the top of my head, but someone who's at that, say $500,000 to $1 million a year off their audience. A lot of it is course, affiliate. Maybe they've got it dialed in. They know how to launch. They've got their content schedule.
And that's running a business in and of itself. So they're getting that experience too.
Yeah, they are. But what would you look for, or how would you talk someone through that if they're like, hey, I think I might want to, launch a full-on business with this? Like, what sort of things would you say? Like,
I looked at what my audience could buy,
yeah,
where my ads were working, where my affiliates were working, and I had an entrepreneurship audience of people who are building businesses, so business-to-business services,
right,
pay-per-click marketing, SEO, website development, property and casualty insurance, recruiting. Those things were right in the wheelhouse of what my audience needed and that I could sell to them. So if I were Sahil Bloom,
yep,
he has a productivity audience of people who want to be disciplined, they want to be fit, they want to be productive, they want to be better humans. Supplement line.
Yeah, protein.
He needs to sell AG1 that's Bloom powder.
Right.
Or that's just one example, right? Find something that you know you can sell. And a great way is if you're selling ads on ConvertKit,
Yep.
look at what
Who
titles
keeps
are
coming back over and over again to buy more.
Yeah.
Right. And we know his Twitter audience is insanely engaged and absolutely massive. And then also with his newsletter, right? I mean, he talks about this. I can talk about this. ConvertKit sells all the ads in his newsletter, and the public numbers that he shared is he's doing $70,000 a month in sponsorship deals.
Yep.
And his newsletter is about the easiest to sell.
So he's selling
well.
He's making $70,000 a month of cash flow, but he's adding $500,000 a month of enterprise value and profit to the businesses that are advertising on his platform. Now we kind of go up a level to influencer private equity. Matthew McConaughey with his business endeavors.
Yep.
George Clooney with Casamigos. The Paul brothers with Prime. All these massive businesses and massive brands that have been launched. Kylie Jenner.
Yeah.
All Oprah from the beginning. She's a billionaire not because of her talk show proceeds, but because of all of the investments and businesses that she's got involved in because she had that audience and she could sell. That's the next level. The level that I'm trying to get to is I have everything I need. I have the audience, I have the operators, I have the capital. I'm going to go buy companies, and I'm going to buy companies for $50 million. I'm going to turn them into $500 million companies, and that's going to make me mega wealthy. Sahil knows private equity because he spent 7 years in that business.
Right.
He's got the audience. He can attract people that are phenomenal operators, the best operators in the world who want to work with him. He's got the trifecta to do business with a cheat code. It's still hard. He's still got to make investments. He's still got to hire people. He's still got to structure these deals in the right way to make it work for everybody, which is really difficult. I made a lot of mistakes structuring deals, not owning enough, giving operators too much, taking too much risk myself for too little reward, not seeing how much value I was actually adding. Of these companies that I'm starting, I'm the majority owner in 6 of the 9 businesses. I'm the majority owner as the influencer. We're not talking about a 15% affiliate deal.
Right.
We're talking about me being the controlling partner. That's the level that Kylie Jenner and some of those are at on a much grander scale.
Yeah, but it's the same style. Going back to Sahil, thinking about the 3 attributes that we talked about of a $1 billion creator. 1 is you have to build more than a personal brand.
Yep.
2 is you need to sell products rather than attention. And then 3 is you need to have recurring or repeat
services.
purchases.
You said products, but services.
Services
too.
work as well.
Yep. I don't sell a single product.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Everything I sell is a sweaty startup,
Is a
small
service.
business that has been proven in the past.
Yeah.
No new ideas, no products that I got to ship. It's all have people do work to collect cash. Every single one of my businesses.
Is that deliberate that you're avoiding products? Or?
Yeah, products are super competitive. There's a lot of CapEx that's required. You got to raise money. You got to ship something to somebody. The payment terms are horrific. A ton of logistics to the business, whereas I can build a team of people on the other side of the world to give a product to American business owners and charge $10,000 and pay
Charge
my
American
people
rates.
$5,000.
Yeah, it's interesting. And that's really what Sahil has done with all of his agencies, with the agencies he's done with Hunter through Assembly, with Paperboy and all of that. They're all service businesses. Now,
And this is just one example, one wild example, but any creator, you tell me a creator, I could think of 5 or 6 products or services that they could sell
yeah.
and build businesses on the back of very easily.
Well, let's go Cody Sanchez.
She could build a any of the businesses I'm building.
Yeah.
Pay-per-click marketing, recruiting. She could build a suite of B2B services very, very easily because she is talking to business owners just like I am, which is a phenomenally valuable niche.
Let's go a different angle. Do you know Dan Go?
Yeah, another one very similar to Sahil of just people who want to be better. So you could sell children's books on discipline. You could sell, and all this applies to Sahil. You could sell a skincare brand. You could sell consulting. You could sell executive coaching. You could sell executive search.
Right.
There's tons
I think
and
about
tons of options.
a lot of these creators, might do one-on-one coaching or something, right? Like Mark Manson works with Dan Go for everything on the fitness side. But then you get these slight pivots where people scale it up in a big way. Like a My Body Tutor or Macro Factors or some of these others.
Exactly. The SaaS, the software place.
Where they start to bring it into, much more of a productized service. And so
Brian Johnson's the best. I mean, he was such a great marketer, posting those weird photos of him naked holding his sons and stuff like that, talking about his erections. He's a master at the clickbait, rage bait bullshit to get people right into his funnel. And people are willing to pay unlimited money to not die when they're rich. Rich people are willing to pay unlimited money to not die. And he is...
what's the willingness to pay in your industry? And it's...
infinite.
Yeah.
Brian Johnson's selling the blueprint to not die.
Right.
And therefore he is using that funnel to build what will become $1 billion business because he knows entrepreneurship. He has built a huge business in the past. Then there's Huberman doing massive business opportunities. Creator-led entrepreneurship at a very high level is something that's not talked about enough. I'm talking high level of, and look, it takes a certain level of drive to try to be a billionaire. Like I want to make $1 million a month and I want to be a billionaire by age 50. Like, that's my goal. Not every creator has that goal.
Yeah, that's a lofty goal. I share that goal, but
We're different.
Yeah. Maybe if we riff on a few others, what about Tim Ferriss? Right? He's got a massive audience.
He built a supplement company to make people smarter at work before he even had the audience.
Right.
He did it on hard mode through customer acquisition and paid ads.
Do that again.
Oh God, anything.
Yeah.
B2B services. He has the wealthy, upper middle class business owners and he has an extremely affluent audience of people who want to better themselves. He could sell any of the things I'm selling, including supplements and products and all this stuff. So
it's interesting as creators have this balance between these small investments, right? Taking a little stake in something or up to a 10 or a 15% stake versus taking the big swing and saying, I'm going to start or fully acquire this company.
Yeah, and you got to work your way up.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people with totally worthless audiences too.
They have a crowd.
Well, or they have audience with no ability to pay for things. Like if I was a audience for thru hikers, those are the brokest people, least ambitious people I've ever met.
The budget travel genre, you know, and you're like...
The people who will buy a $30 backpack because they don't see it worth investing in a $300 backpack.
Right. If someone was watching and they had an audience like that where they realized that, I don't know, teaching knitting to college students or something like that, a skill that doesn't make money to people who don't have money, what would you do? It's
just keep it as a hobby.
Keep it as a hobby.
Go make money doing something else.
Yeah.
One of the most exciting audiences that I've seen built recently is Preston Holland.
Yeah.
On Twitter. He is building an audience around private aviation. 1 year ago, he did not know how the industry worked.
Right.
He got in with Craig Fuller, who's a friend of mine, great guy, and they're in the aviation business through flying.
Right.
And Preston tweets about how much it costs to own and fly private jets.
Yep.
And he's building a newsletter of people who are interested in buying private jets.
I subscribe to the newsletter. I read it every week.
If Preston knew what he was doing, he would, I don't want to say this on the air, but he'd get the hell out of his job and build a massive company, brokering airplanes or selling insurance to airplanes or doing whatever else because he's building that audience himself. If I were Craig, I wouldn't let him build that. Like my operators build an audience that I own on Twitter.
Right.
Like every one of my companies has its own handle that I am building.
Yeah.
Because if one of my operators had the audience, then all my leverage goes away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the audience is so valuable. Now, what's key about what Preston is doing is he's attached himself not just to the broad category of business or something like that. He's attached himself to an insanely expensive transaction only made by very, very wealthy people. So just the table stakes in that, if you're like, oh, I'll take 1% of a transaction and the transaction is $12 million or $5 million.
A great example, I don't know if I want to share this on the line because you and I talked about it. But let's just paint the picture of a guy in New York who is an airplane blogger. He gets in planes and films himself going on journeys, teaching people to fly.
Yep.
I don't know if the person you had told me about.
Oh yeah, you can talk about it fully.
Yeah, so guy in Boise, he's a blogger. vlogger really about
Yep.
how to fly airplanes.
Yep. Fly with
And
Trent is the YouTube channel.
Fly with Trent is his YouTube channel. At first, the audience came with people wanting to learn to fly with Trent. So they would pay him $200 an hour to fly. He realized real
Really
quick,
just $80 an hour is the going rate for flight instruction.
he realized real quick probably that wasn't the best way to make money. So he started selling those leads to flight schools that pay him $2, $3, $5,000 for those leads to go to flight schools. Those flight schools are paying $3,000 because that's an extremely valuable lead. The level up would be him starting his own flight school with a good operator. Find somebody who has built a flight school before, raise a little bit of capital, or buy a flight school, and then use his audience to fuel that flight school so that all that enterprise value, all that cash flow is going to him. There's 3 levels to the game, right? There's get customers to trade my time for money, $80 an hour.
Yep.
Then there's the one of make $30,000 a month because I'm sending 10 customers a month to this flight school. Damn, I'm feeling like I'm on a high hog. The next level is owning a flight, buying a flight school for $2 million and turning it into a $10 million flight school, and either holding it and making $1 million, $2, $3, $4 million a year, or sell the company and make $8 million.
Right. Yeah. So with Trent is an interesting example because he has a bunch of these skills going in, right? He has built and sold multiple businesses. He already knew how to create content on YouTube, and he decided that he wanted to be an airline pilot at 53 years old with a mandatory retirement age of 65. He's like, you know what? I'm going to go for the airlines right now.
Man, I can't think of anybody. That's like wanting to be a doctor or a lawyer. I don't know why
It's
anybody
so
would want to
hard.
do that.
But
there are some careers that are on my. I can't believe anybody wants to do this. It's doctor, it's lawyer, it's CPA, and it's airline pilot.
yeah.
Quality of life relative to compensation is horrific.
Now, as you get well into the career, right? An airline pilot's making $300,000 a year, not working that hard when they're well into their career.
Yeah, most doctors and lawyers get happy about 52, but they're on their second wife and they're overweight and everything else.
But so Trent decided to go on this journey. First, starts the channel, starts to get people following him because he's trying to do this in a really accelerated path. So he went and did something of getting, I think, 6 or 7 ratings. He did it in 91 days when most people would do it in 18 months.
So he's phenomenally talented.
He's very, very talented, and he created content about the whole story.
Is he charismatic as well?
Oh yeah.
So he's going to be very wealthy as a creator.
But the crazy thing is, to me, is the audience is going to get him to his goal of 1,500 hours and being hired as an airline pilot. In a quarter of the time, he's going to make way more money in the process. But so not only is it going to shortcut everything that he's doing, but once he gets there, he's going to be making 10 times more as a content creator and as an influencer than he would ever make as an airline pilot.
And then if he shifts to being an entrepreneur, it 10x's again.
Yeah, it's wild. Because the thing about being a flight instructor is you actually make $25 an hour because the $80 an hour is paid to the school.
Yeah.
And then they pay you a subset of that. And so he's making, as an independent flight instructor, he's making the 80.
Yeah.
But he'll keep scaling it up. But I think the crazy thing is realizing that the audience is so much more valuable than even the journey that he's going on or his original goal.
And I think we can't do this interview without talking about money a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's what drives everybody. And I think so many creators have this mindset that money is evil, capitalism is bad, I don't want to be an entrepreneur, why do I need this money? I talked to my friend Justin Welsh and he's like, I got everything I need. And he's a unique case because he's making a shitload of money. But he's like, I don't want to go bigger. No need to go bigger.
Yeah.
I'll challenge everybody who ever says that. I'll challenge them. Maybe it's just because I have an insatiable ambition to make a shitload of money. Whether you like it or not, whether you're willing to admit it or not, good comes from money. It amplifies your ability to do good. It amplifies the amount of people that you can impact. I have a friend who his goal is to positively impact a massive amount of people. The best way to positively impact the most people is through entrepreneurship. The more money you make is directly correlated to how much value you're adding to other people's lives.
Right.
So you want to make a big difference? Look around at who's making a big difference. It's the richest people in our country. And then there's the camp of, hey, I want to make a huge difference. I want to positively impact a lot of people, but I also want nice things. There's no job in the world that'll get you one of these houses in El Dorado and Cabo.
Right.
It's entrepreneurship.
Yeah. I was actually going to bring up Justin Welsh earlier in our what should someone with a big audience do? Mm-hmm. But I didn't because I know that side of him, having talked to him a bunch, that he doesn't have that ambition to take it much, much bigger.
I think he's got the ambition. He's just hiding it for a little while and it's going to come out because he's just so phenomenally good.
Yeah.
He comes from the world of building businesses. He's ran large teams. He has all the tools to do big things. We're going to watch him rock the world, in my opinion.
Why do you think he's hiding it?
Because he's a guy that realizes that once you get pulled into this, you can work really long hours. You can sacrifice things. It's like that. There's another side of this, which is the dark side, which is we are out here on a journey. We're in Cabo right now with 6 other badass entrepreneurs. We all have money taken care of.
Yep.
We all could not work another day in our lives and be completely fine. Yet all of us are talking about how we have balance and how we can enjoy more things and how we can come on this thing and not get on calls and how I don't have to check my email every day and how do I separate from this stuff. So there's this pull, and as the opportunities come and there's opportunity cost of all these things, it gets really hard to balance in your mind. So I think that's what he's weighing is, do I really want to lay it down again to take some big swings?
Well, I think there's also, maybe it's like playing different levels of a video game, or, climbing, scaling one mountain and then staying there, and like kind of that recoup to decide, okay, do I want to scale the next one?
Mm-hmm.
And so he's absolutely won the games of building an audience, earning a phenomenal living from that. And I think it's totally fine for a while.
Yeah.
And you could, if you want to do it forever, I don't care. But to stay at that level and say like, this is nice. Maybe I'm going to hang out here for a year, 2 years. And then you sort of look and you're like, all right, I've now stockpiled $5 million of cash. I've tested a bunch of things, played with affiliate deals to see what my audience buys, that kind of thing. And now I'm looking and I'm like, all right, I'm ready to scale that next cliff and go, play the next level of the video game. Because that's ultimately what we're doing. We're just
absolutely
we're just all playing around.
I kind of look at it as this audience came to me, and with it comes a massive amount of opportunity.
Yeah,
I have opportunity to work 40 years and build $1 billion empire, which is going to change my life, not only my direct family life, but my extended family's life.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to change a lot of my employees' lives. The philanthropy that I'm going to be able to do is just going to be amazing. I'm already able to do some philanthropy it's small, but it's making a massive difference. I would look at it as it's my duty now at this point.
Yeah.
It is my duty to capitalize on this audience that I built. I don't want to do the work sometimes. I want to sit here in Cabo and make my little bit of money and drink beer and hang out with friends and do nothing. But it's my duty now because this audience is insanely powerful.
Yeah. And you just think about all of the things. I learned about real estate cost segregation from one of your Twitter threads, right? And I've used that a bunch when, I don't buy a lot of properties, but as we've built out a short-term rental portfolio.
You're an RE cost seg customer.
I am.
Okay,
yeah.
Awesome.
And so it's not just what you're doing, through the money that you earn. It's also the content and then the businesses that allow people to do so many other things, right? You're able to, with RE cost seg, you're able to offer a service significantly cheaper than
the great thing about making money is that literally people won't give you that money unless they're getting more value than that money.
Than they would get somewhere else. Yeah.
If I asked you, said, Nathan, let's do a little bit of work together. Let's exchange a bunch of emails. Let our company do some work for you. You give me $1,000 and I'll give you $1,000.
It's like, why?
No value was added. But the way entrepreneurship works is that it's an abundance mindset. You can give me $1,000 and I make $500 on it, and you make $500 on it. So you get $1,500 of value, you pay me $1,000. I get $500 spread there too. When you find good businesses, you have massive amounts of value on both ends of the equation, and everybody's life gets better.
Yeah. Let's say that you're great at content creation and all of that, and you don't have some of the business skills. Where do you go to start to round out the business skills?
Sales is the most important. You can get away without having a lot of business skills if you're good at sales. If you can sell. And creators are notoriously horrific at selling. It's one thing that I got to shake my buddies that we've mentioned in this conversation.
Yeah.
A lot of people who I've pulled aside and been like, they think that they can make 100 tweets, and if one of them is asking somebody for money, it's going to tarnish their brand.
Right.
I tweet 40 times a week. 7 of those tweets are direct sales tweets.
Not a casual mention.
No, it's
go buy.
Give me money. Open your wallet and give me money. Click this link and give me money.
Give me an example of one of those tweets.
I could pull. You want me to? I was pulling up.
Sure. Yeah. Let's browse.
My
Twitter
team
right
posted. It's Friday. They posted one yesterday. So let me pull it up. But yeah, it's me literally directly promoting one of my companies. Yesterday at 6:07 a.m. Last year, I co-founded a business brokerage with my father, and it's been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. We now have 2,000 interested buyers, and we have more investors on our list hunting for deals. If you think 2024 is the right time to sell your business, fill out this link. 44,000 views, 79 likes. Now let me go in my email, and I'm going to pull up the amount of leads that came from this. You tell me if you think that tweet worked. Don't read any of the names, but just count them.
Yeah, we got 8 yesterday, basically.
8 owners of businesses that went into our hopper to potentially sell their companies. I looked at them. One of them is a home service business that's worth $10 million plus. We get that listing, we sell that business, that's a $250,000 commission if we charge 2.5%. but we might be able to charge 4% or $400,000. Wake up.
Yeah.
Ask for fucking money. Nobody hates me. Look at the comments. Now you look at the comments on my tweet. Follow the people that sell well. Follow Ty Lopez. Follow Grant Cardone. Cody sells really well now. Follow these people who are comfortable selling and just watch. And it's Gary Vee talks about it. It's the jab, 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 right hook. I add a lot of value on my Twitter. Yeah. I'm teaching people about a lot of shit. I'm making them smarter about business. So therefore they can follow me. They learn. Then they learn again. Then Nick asks them for money. Right. It's the jab, 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 boom, right hook. Gary Vee talks about that. So watch people who sell. Don't be afraid to sell. And realize that you've built trust. People like you for who you are. You're not going to lose that trust by putting an ad every now and then.
Yeah.
People get advertised to all day, every day. You watch the Super Bowl and 30, 40% of the airtime is ads to you. You watch a TV show, 30, 40% is ads. You walk in the subway, ads are on the top of it. Ads are everywhere. You can't get around them. People are not going to stop following you because you write a couple ads.
This is something that I need to do a lot better. But an example is I'll post a tweet. We've been hitting records each month for the number of migrations that we do to bring a customer over to ConvertKit. I think it was in February I posted a tweet of like, oh, we just hit a record in January for the most migrations ever done in a month. If you've been thinking about migrating over to ConvertKit, fill out this form. And I was shocked at how many people, because I had this assumption that like, oh, if someone follows me, they know ConvertKit, they would have already switched over. Like I was doing
your audience. Your audience is a parade. People get excited about Nick Huber. They get excited about me for a window in their career. Maybe it's a year they're following Nick, and then they kind of know me, and they're going to glance at my stuff every now and then, but they're into me for a little while. When they find this podcast, they get into this podcast, they listen to a lot of this podcast, then they'll go 2 years without ever thinking about Nathan Barry, but they're going to always know who you are. They're going to maybe check in.
Yep.
So I literally have a schedule right here on Google Sheets. Every Monday, every Tuesday, and every Thursday, I promote one of my companies.
Yep.
There's 9 companies, and that's a 3-a-week schedule. So every 21 days, my company gets a promo on Twitter, and it's scheduled. I am promoting and selling myself on an actual schedule so that every 21 days, the business brokerage gets promoted. Every 21 days, Shepherd gets promoted. Every 21 days, AdRhino gets promoted, and people start to see it. People start to feel it. You have to do it that way. You can't just, when I feel like it, I'll make a tweet, and then all of a sudden 4 months goes by, and you're not capitalizing on your audience.
Right, and then if you build a business with a great operator, you've got the team in place. If you were flooding them with business 1 month and then forgetting about them for 3 months, you're screwing over your operator. So by doing this, you're saying, hey, here's the exact cadence.
I have 5 people on my content team, and my head of content, before he posts that tweet, will go to the operator and say, hey, are you ready? Is your calendar cleared? Are you ready to handle more leads? And sometimes they'll say no, and we shift the schedule around, and you're going to get like right now, 3 of my companies cannot accept leads. Titan Risk is overwhelmed. AdRhino's overwhelmed, WebRhino's overwhelmed. The operators got 40 sales calls in the last 3 weeks from my promo. They're like, Nick, I got to hire 3 more people.
Yeah.
Back off for a while. So they tell Colin. Colin moves them on the schedule, and somebody else gets promoted. So Colin's job as my head of media is to send customers to my companies. If there's one North Star, send customers to our companies. Everything else is secondary.
Yeah, and a secondary metric would be, grow top of funnel and all of that, because the larger top of funnel is, the more customers you can send. But if you set the primary goal as grow top of funnel, then you might be off, like, how do we get all of the college kids to watch our entrepreneurship content, which is the last thing that
you're not optimizing for what is most important, which is money in my wallet. I don't have my wallet because I'm in Mexico, but I pull up my wallet and say, this is the metric. Money. Yeah. Money is the scoreboard.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm a different guest than you usually have on here. Because
no, I think that's the exact angle that we go with, because being able to really drive towards the income and results that you want and get really clear on, I have to sell.
Yeah.
I have to get clear on what I want. So many people are saying like, oh, I'd like to make a little bit more money, but not a lot. And so you and I are like, if that's what you actually want, just own it and say, yes, I want to build
I'll say it right here. I came to Cabo last year on this mastermind 1 year ago, and I was making about $125,000 a month personally.
Yeah.
That's good money, man. That's
awesome.
Over $1 million a year. I was pumped. Now I'm at average about 300 a month. 1 year later, my goal is right now, my personal scoreboard is I want to make $1 million a month of personal cash flow. If I do that, I can do whatever I want to do.
Yeah. That's amazing. And the audience is going to get
And the audience is going to get me there.
Yeah.
Which is pretty mind-blowing.
And then talk for just a second about the team. So you've got Colin running it. So you have one person as head of content, head of marketing running.
Head of ops almost. I need to hire a second person to help him with ops because he can't do as much now with the content because he's just doing so much. He's running 2 podcasts. He's got the newsletter. He's got all these things going on. My schedule across Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter, and YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And sending all the customers. Like that's our main
Right.
goal. And he runs 2 of the accounts for my individual businesses that have 30,000 followers each. So he's overloaded, but he's got 5 employees. They're all overseas. They work directly for him. I've never talked to any of them. So my team is, I have Colin, who's head of ops, head of media, and he has people that are helping him execute
And
our
that
schedule.
keeps you out of the logistics of
Yeah,
of
like
that
yesterday,
business.
I didn't tweet, but there were 7 tweets sent that Colin's team created. If I die, if I get hit by a bus or shot by a machine gun on my way to the airport here in Mexico, everything will just continue on. There's a plan in place for my attorney, my CPA, my wife, and my trustee to be in the room with Colin,
Yeah.
and it's all gonna keep going because this is too valuable to stop.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And any advice to someone starting to build out that team? Maybe they have the social media assistant and they're realizing it's time to scale it up more.
If you're making Justin Welsh money, 7 figures a year, you need a team.
Yeah.
I've been all over him because it's him and his wife. The opportunity is just so massive.
And it's just so much easier when you have
It's delegatable.
really smart people.
I'm not always tied to my phone. I could go a whole day without Twitter. I went to New York and went on a snowmobile trip for 4 days and didn't get on Twitter once, and the leads kept coming to my business. Like, I don't want to be a guy who is the bottleneck for everything that happens in my company. So get uncomfortable, hire somebody at low risk in the Philippines through Support Shepherd if you don't want to hire an American. You know, I pay Colin a lot of money. Like a good head of content's $250,000 a year, worth every penny. Like I need another one, but you know, it's a little uncomfortable just to start there. So I would start with a $1,500 a month hire in LATAM that you get through Shepherd.
Yeah, I love it. I love how all your businesses are so well integrated into everything that you're doing.
Yep.
Thanks for hanging out. This has been a lot of fun. I think you're going
Thanks
to blow people's minds on what's actually possible with an audience. And
Good.
We're just scratching the surface because
I think, parting words, I would urge the creators to more ambitious goals. Ambition. Like there's nothing wrong with ambition. You don't need to be ashamed of making money. You can talk about it. You can buy nice things. You can do a lot of philanthropy with it. You can change the world in positive ways if you have cash.
I love it. Set bigger goals.
Thanks for having me.
If you enjoyed this episode, go to the YouTube channel, just search $1 Billion Creator, and go ahead and subscribe. Make sure to like the video and drop a comment. I'd love to hear what some of your favorite parts of the video were and also who else we should have on the show.